Additionally, the Barber Valley Neighborhood Association has asked, and I've accepted, attending their September meeting to answer questions on the Harris Ranch CID. So that is the updates themselves. Now, unless there's any questions, I'll move on to the resolution that's before the board right now.
Any questions for David about the actions? Yes, I would just say thank you, and especially thank you for agreeing to go out and meet with the neighborhood association.
Absolutely. So the resolution that's before the board right now is the agreement between the district and the lender to borrow $2.1 million via general obligation bonds. And so each year the district submits or goes through a public bidding process to work with lenders to find as low rates as possible and as favorable terms as possible. And this year, Zions Bank had both the lowest rates and the most favorable terms. And so staff is recommending via this resolution that Zions Bank be awarded with that bid. Of that $2.1 million, about $32,000 will be set aside as reserves in case of any potential shortfalls for the debt service. And then $65,000 will go towards the cost of issuance. And so that goes into three main areas. I don't have the exact breakdowns, but one is to reimburse the city staff for the over 300 hours that get spent on the district. The second is that it will also go towards bond counsel, who makes sure that the bonds are going to be tax exempt. And then finally, to pay for the financial advisor that helps construct the bonds themselves, the structure of the bonds. One resident who participated last 2 weeks ago in the public hearing process proposed a few other potential bidders. And so we're happy to reach out to them and include them in that bidding process for next year. One final note, and this is based on one of the letters that was received in terms of the way that the general obligation bonds work and that 2.85 mill levy. So the way that works is each year the district receives an assessment from Ada County that states the value of the district. This year that value was about $349 million. The district staff, we then take that and multiply that against the mill levy to determine what the capacity is for debt service. And we subtract out the current year's debt service, and what is left over is what is used to estimate the size of the debt issuance. And that's how we arrived at the $2.1 million for this year. And so the district has been using that 2.85 mill levy, the full amount. However, Madam Chair, as you noted in our last meeting, that is not required that the district must issue up to the full 2.85 mils. So those are my prepared remarks for the bond resolution. I have remarks for each of the other resolutions, but I'll address those as they each come up. So I'll stand for any questions.
Questions of David?
Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Councilmember Whittings.
Things that came up in our last meeting, David, was the potential of refinancing some of the existing bonds. Would that have to come back to the CID board, or is that allowed just to happen kind of at the staff level?
Yeah, Madam Chair, Board Member Whittings, that's a good question. And it depends on, ultimately, the final decision will be the board's. It will be incumbent on staff to bring those suggestions forward. And for example, next year, the district staff will look at the special assessment bond, because that bond is currently at 9%, which is a very high rate of interest. And that bond, the way it's structured, it is eligible to be refinanced next year. It was not previously available to be refinanced. And that's one of the things that the PFM, our financial advisor, works with us on is when we go out to bid, trying to find favorable terms. And so the Zions Bank bond that we are recommending the board approve this year does have the ability to be refinanced with a 30 days prior notice. So that is one of the terms that we look for. we have to keep in mind that obviously, just like if you were to refinance your house, there are costs associated with that. So not all of the bonds have the ability to be refinanced. Some of them have to wait, but the board, we will bring those forward to the board as there is opportunity and potential savings.
Great, thank you.
David, I have a question. You answered it partially. So this year's assessed value for the buildings that are completed and the land that still remains undeveloped in the district was 349 million. Is that less than last year?
Madam Chair, no. The last year, the exact amount was about 290 some million.
Okay. So
yeah.
what did go down, I'm thinking then, is the assessed values on the buildings that were complete for last year's assessment. Is that what I heard, that there actually is a reduction in the assessed value for a fair number of the buildings?
Madam Chair, that's correct. So of that 349 million, I believe the correct number, or the actual increased value from new construction was about 57 million. And the district, the existing buildings, actually the county assessed their value at about 2 million less than the previous year. So although the overall district was assessed at a higher value, that came from new construction.
And so in general, is it fair to say that as a result of that assessment action, the majority of the existing buildings in the district will actually see a decrease in their CID tax total this coming year?
Madam Chair, on average, that is what should occur. Of course, it will depend very much on individual properties.
Sure.
As Eric has pointed out in city council meetings, there can be some discrepancies, but on average, that is accurate.
Okay. So even though we're staying at the 2.85 mils because it was being figured on a higher assessment in many cases last year, it should result in a lower tax this year.
Madam Chair, that's correct. And of course, that was the original design for the district, is that the majority of increases should come from new construction. The challenge that the district is facing is, of course, that housing prices have escalated so incredibly rapidly.
So thank you. I just think that's important for folks who might be listening to know that, the concerns were heard. There's not a lot we can do about them this year, but given where we are, I think at least there will be some leveling off of what's been happening. Thank you.
Madam Chair, just one question.
Sure.
Also, the 2.85%, is that has that changed over any of the years, or is it consistent? Been consistent since the CID's been around?
And Madam Chair, Board Member Thompson, the 2.85 mils has been consistent throughout the history of the district.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? If not, we have before us a resolution.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
I move approval of HR CID 9-2020, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the Harris Ranch Community Infrastructure District Number 1, authorizing the issuance and sale of a general obligation bond in one or more series in the principal amount of up to $2,200,000.
Second.
moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, go ahead.
Madam Chair, I just want to thank David and staff for really digging in quickly and talking with some of the concerned new residents of Harris Ranch about the CID. I think that there's been a lot of information shared and a lot of understanding achieved through that. And so I appreciate that engagement.
Thank you. I think that's shared by the rest of the board members. With that, would the clerk please call the roll?
Woodings,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Clegg.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Item 3.2 is another resolution, HR CID 10-2020, approving the removal and transfer of assessments for certain right-of-way parcels and common lots within the infrastructure district.
All right, Madam Chair. So this resolution is to approve the assessment rolls that will be used to pay for the debt service for the 2011 special assessment bond. And so the special assessment bond works a little bit differently from general obligation bonds. General obligation bonds are calculated against the property value of all of the properties within the district. And whereas the special assessment bond is actually calculated against the acreage of the properties within the district. And so each year, new parcels are created and registered with the county for new homes. And at the same time, land is removed for public spaces, such as for roads, right-of-ways, easements. And so those areas are then removed from the district. So for this year, about 5.5 acres was removed from the special assessment area in order to be used for mostly for roads, but for right-of-ways. And so these changes are reflected in the engineer's report that is attached to this agenda item. And so the developer agreement specifies that the developer, and they work with their engineer, is required to produce this report for use for creation of the assessment rolls. And that report is taken and then is reviewed by city staff or the district staff, specifically the city engineer's office, for accuracy. Then after it's reviewed by the city engineer, it is then passed on to Ada County, and Ada County's assessor's office then performs their own review before they apply the special assessment tax to each property. Now, one of the concerns that was brought up is the area within the district, that there are certain areas that are not part of either the district themselves or the special assessment area. There are little pockets. And in our last meeting, the developer, Doug Fowler, addressed why that is. There were certain areas that were pre-existing before the district was formed. And so those areas were not included as part of the district when it was formed. So that is why there are some areas that are not included in that special assessment engineer's report. I also realized that I was remiss in my last item. I forgot to mention the interest rate for the general obligation bonds was 2.24%.
Thank you. So David, just to clarify, I think you were going through the list of things and you said easements, but as I understand it, it's not easements, but common lots are included or are removed as they're created from the special assessment. Is that right?
Madam Chair, you've hit the limit of my knowledge. I have to defer to Doug Fowler on that one.
Doug, there may be some easements because I know that with the drainage basins and some of the irrigation, but I'm just trying to clarify if there are easements that are also taken out of the special assessment or if it's just right-of-ways and common lots.
I believe it's just right-of-ways and common lots. And you know, every time we build a road, we have to recalculate everything for the special assessment.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure no one had any question on the record on that one. Any other questions for David? All right, with that, we have HR CID 10-2020 before us.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve HR CID 10-2020, a resolution approving the removal and transfer of assessments for certain rights of way parcel and common lots within Harris Ranch Community Infrastructure District Number 1.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Woodings.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Clegg.
Yes,
All in favor, motion carries.
thank you. Item 3.3 is HR CID 11/2020 about the L2 form. David?
Yes, Madam Chair. So this resolution is to approve the L2. The L2 is a form that both the city and the district submit to Ada County that contains the levies that will be assessed for the upcoming tax year. And so the L2 for this year contains two different levies. One is for the general obligation debt and is the larger amount. And then the smaller amount is the levy for the administrative functions of the district. And so this is the final step in the budgetary process for the district. And it is based on the budget that the board approved in our last meeting. And that's all that I have for that resolution.
Thank you. So I do have a question on our packet, and I'm assuming this has gotten corrected on page 208, which would be the second page of the L2 form. It's the levy calculation worksheet. The division, the levy rate, and the over maximum rate did not show up because there appeared to be Excel sheet error in that. I wondered if you could tell us what those numbers are.
And Madam Chair, could you repeat the page number again?
In my packet, it's page 208, and it would be the fourth column over on the bottom. And I didn't notice it until just now, or I would have let you know beforehand, and I apologize for that.
Yeah, unfortunately, I do not have that rate. And it appears that it got scrambled when it got converted to PDF. Madam Chair, I'm happy to, if the board is willing to wait a couple of minutes, I can pull that up from my desktop, or
That seems to be probably the best course of action, just so that as we're approving this, we actually have that number. I'm willing to wait. Is everyone? Okay, likewise. Thank you. So for anyone listening in online and why this is an important form, the city accidentally filled out this form incorrectly for the Foothills levy a few years ago, and we had to rerun the vote in order to actually assess that levy over a 2-year period. So this is an important form. It's how you certify what actually gets done. And so it's important to make sure it's correct.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I'm just going to add that that was the same year that I ran for city council, and I became very educated on what exactly an L2 form is, because that was one of the most common questions I got at people's doors was, what's the deal with this levy? So I would have to explain to them what the L2 form was and why they should vote in the affirmative yet again.
I remember that well.
Okay.
Thankfully, I wasn't door knocking that year. Mr. Hasagawa,
Madam Chair, Jamie is trying to see if she can rescue me here.
okay. I didn't know where the error occurred, but I just thought it best that we get it corrected now and not have to come back. Do we have legal counsel present?
Madam Chair, we do.
Ask a question. Would we be able, Rob, to approve this with the condition that the final number be brought back to us if we can't find it today, or would we need to wait and have a special meeting?
I think we can take that suggested course of action with a motion with a caveat. And I'm trying to find the original document as well. Hopefully we'll have that here in a
Okay.
moment.
We'll give it a few more minutes, but since we have another meeting starting at 3, if we need to, we could do that.
Madam Chair, I apologize. I will have to run downstairs to grab those numbers for you. So if you could give me about 5 more minutes.
Okay,
to have
we
those.
can do that much. So we will actually just take a break for 5 minutes. We'll be back here at 2:48. Okay,
All right. Thank you very much, and my apologies.
that's okay.
Pretty good. How's your summer going? Hot. I went over to Montana to escape the heat. I got really smoky, but it was like one morning was 36 degrees. So, kind of the Scheffler district of Yellowstone. Cool. So it was nice. Saw like there for 3 nights, 4 days. Saw 6 other people. Quality moon sightings. Yeah, excellent, excellent. Yeah, a lot of bears, scat. I love it over there. There's just no one goes down there. You know, it occurs to me, what do you see news stories from Yellowstone? The humans can't socially distance from buffalo every summer in Yellowstone. Like, we're doomed. Yeah, we might just be doomed.
So that's a good thing. Yeah, but it's so tough keeping them motivated.
All right, Councilmember Thompson, it looks like we're back. Great. Okay, I'll call the meeting back to order. What have you found out?
And Madam Chair, this is, I apologize. I was not able to get everything. We will have to come back and revisit this item. I'll work with the clerk to reschedule or set up an additional meeting. Ultimately, we do need to turn it in by September 5th, so we do have some time.
Okay, all right. With that, I guess I would need a motion to defer this last item to date to be determined in a special meeting.
Madam Chair, I move that we move HR CID 11-2020 to a date to be determined by the CID board.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Woodings.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Clegg.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Madam Chair, move that we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you. We'll
Thank
see
you.
council members back here in about 10 minutes.
See you in a few.